A story written in 1951 predicted online schools, personalized learning, and AI tutors. This is a short story written by one of my favorite authors of all time, Isaac Asimov, and it's entitled The Fun They Had. It's only a few pages long, but it captures the tension between technology and humanity better than many full-length novels. Before we dive in, let me give you a bit of history. The Fun They Had was first published on December the 1st, 1951 in the Boys and Girls pages of the magazine of fantasy and science fiction. It wasn't written for adults, it wasn't written for a major science fiction collection. It was a simple story for school children. And yet, it has become one of Asimov's most anthologized works. The fact that the story was written for kids in 1951 still feel relevant today says everything about Asimov's insight. So the story takes place in the year 2155. In some versions of reprints, the year is also 2157, but in this edition that I am reviewing, which is a 1963 anthology, the year shown is actually 2155. So the story is set in 2155, and two children discover an old school book, a book with a real book, a book with pages to turn. For them, this is almost magical. Their entire education happens through a mechanical teacher, a screen, a personalized system that delivers directly to them at home, and where they would submit their homework as well through electronic means. And instantly, the whole world seems familiar. We have online learning, we have personalized lessons, we have digital screens. So it's a future Asimov imagined long before they became a reality. There are some things that he didn't get right, but we'll talk about that later. But the heart of the story is not the technology. The book only is a minor part of the story. It's Margie's reaction to the idea of schools from the past, places where children gathered in one building, learned the same lessons, laughed together, and helped each other in their work. She imagines it with a kind of longing, a sadness for something she never experienced and may never experience, a sense that learning used to be more human. And that's the emotional core of the story. What do we lose when learning becomes too efficient? So, what are the predictions that Asimov got right? He was astonishingly accurate about some things. For example, personalized learning, lessons adjusted to children's pace. We have that. Even not as far, we are only about 75 years from the time that he has written the book, but we already have personalized learning. We have digital education. Yes, screens replacing paper. We have AI like tutors, the machines that grade instantly. We have learning at home. Maybe COVID accelerated that, but something the whole world experienced during the pandemic. We had schools basically running from home. Your bedroom or your living room became your classroom. But there are some predictions that didn't quite stand the test of time. Not everything aged perfectly, and that's part of the charm. You don't have to be 100%. But let's look at some of them. First, Asimov imagined literal mechanical teachers, metal boxes with screens and gears. So there is the technician who looks suspiciously like Santa Claus, who comes home and gives an apple to the child and then fixes their mechanical teacher. Um, in reality, our teachers are software today, right? We don't have mechanical teachers. We have apps, we have platforms, don't have machines in the corner of a room. Second, he predicted that children would learn entirely alone, each in their own home. But we learned very painfully during the pandemic that children need each other. Even after the pandemic, the world didn't take long to rush children back into the classrooms. Third, he assumed that printed books would become strange artifacts. No, physical books are still thriving. People love them more than ever. Look behind me. I mean, that's, books are not going to go away. Plus, he doesn't consider the fact that, there are millions of books that have been published. So it's quite unlikely that the children would never have seen a printed book ever. So that seemed kind of too simplistic to ignore the fact that there must be, we still have tablets from the Sumerian times, and we didn't destroy them. I mean, but we still have thousands of them. So books in the millions will not just disappear, even given 200 years after the time this story was written. And finally, he imagined a future without human teachers. There are no teachers; they're just machines. And at one point, there is an argument between the two protagonists, where Margie and Tommy, where Margie insists that humans cannot be as good a teacher as a machine. And that's an argument we have today. Is AI better? Is online teaching better than actual human teacher standing in front of you? But teachers remain essential. We haven't given up on having a human teacher. Uh, Machines just became, an enhancer of education, but not necessarily a replacement for um, personal, like in-person education. So humans are there not just for instruction, but for connection, for encouragement, and community. So these predictions actually highlight what Asimov valued most, that the human side of learning is important. Maybe we realize that, very early in the game, that we can't just stop teaching in a classroom with a human teacher and replace it with a mechanical or a digital teacher. So now I want to talk about something that surprised me, and honestly something I didn't exactly love. Creatively, the fun they had is incredibly simple. There's no mystery, no crisis, no dramatic turn. There's no punchline, no twist, no revelation. Nothing really changes from the beginning to the end. Margie doesn't rebel. Tommy doesn't discover a secret. Really, he finds a book, but that's about it. But he doesn't discover anything special other than that. The mechanical teacher doesn't malfunction really, and the old book doesn't unlock any hidden truth for them. So there is no revelation as such. The story begins quietly, it ends quietly. And for me, that was a little unsatisfying. I kept waiting for something to happen, a moment of tension or conflict, a shift in Margie's world. But Asimov doesn't give us that. He keeps the story flat almost deliberately. Maybe he was considering his audience. His audience would be a much younger audience, so he didn't want complexity, maybe. But I think it's because this wasn't meant to be a dramatic sci-fi tale. It was meant to be a thought experiment for children. Um, there's always been a time in school, for everybody's life, where they hated school, hated going to school, and maybe this was directed to every child who will at some point think that in 1951, and to tell them, hey, you guys have it good. In the future, you'll lose this, and then the children of the future will look back and feel that you were the luckier ones. So you were the ones who really had the fun, right? So it was a gentle nudge, a simple contrast between two ways of learning. The story is not going to thrill us. It's not going to, magically transform our thinking. But it is definitely trying to make us think. Even so, as a reader, who loves narrative movement, I felt the absence of a dramatic arc, and that's okay. Every Not every story has to be a roller coaster. It's worth acknowledging that the fun they had is more of an idea than a plot. There was also a time where, at the very beginning, where I felt the story is going another way. I looked at it, it starts off with, oh, they found a book. So Tommy finds a book in the attic. And I think, oh, maybe this is a dystopian future where books are banned, books are prohibited, and all books have disappeared from this society. Very quickly, the story shifts from, oh, it's not the book that is the surprise here. It is actually, the book is about schools, and schools are what the story is about. The lack of the what we would consider our traditional schools, the lack of these schools is what this story is about. So there was that surprise right at the beginning, and then the rest of it is all about schools and teachers. So it's not so much about books not being in this society, but it's about schools that are missing from this society. The emotional turn is Margie's realization. There's a moment, and towards the end of the story, where Margie thinks about children sitting together in a classroom and learning the same things, laughing and sharing and helping each other. So let me just read you a little quote from that. So this is towards the very end. Uh, she was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the classroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things so they could help one another on the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were people. So she realizes that her world is efficient but very lonely, precise but isolating, personalized but missing something essential. And that's where the title lands, the fun they had. It's not nostalgia, it's recognition, a quiet understanding that learning is richer when it's shared. In a world where everything is optimized and digitized and personalized, the fun they had reminds us that education is more than information transfer. It's curiosity, it's community, it's conversation, and it's the joy of discovering something together. Asimov wasn't warning us about technology. He was reminding us that the most meaningful parts of learning was still human. If you have never read The Fun They Had, I would recommend you read it. It's not a very long read. It's actually only about 3.5 pages, even in this small digest like format. And so it'll take a few minutes, but it will be worth your read. And if you have read it, then I would recommend you revisit it now, because today's world looks more like Asimov's than even he could have ever imagined. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy deep, thoughtful reviews and explorations of books and ideas, consider subscribing to my channel. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing about school that technology could never replace? This was Deep Reads with Pradeep.